I was a sophomore in high school, I had a crush on an older girl. In my English class, there was this really cool senior. Let's call her Kat. At my school, it was pretty uncommon to have friends in different grades than yours, but Kat would often strike up conversation with me in the hallway after class. One day, the teacher paired us up for a group assignment, so I got to spend some more one-on-one time with her. She was funny, smart, and, yes, pretty attractive, so I couldn't help but develop feelings for her. We had exchanged numbers back when we were doing the group project, but we kept texting even after we finished it. We got pretty friendly and even started flirting a little bit. Well, it was sort of flirting, but also sort of just joking around. I could never tell if she was really into me, but I did enjoy humoring the possibility. One Friday night I was at a party with some of my sophomore friends. This was late in the spring, and the school year was winding down. I had been texting with Kat, asking her about graduation, and if she was getting into all sorts of trouble now that she was a second semester senior. She was teasing me for still having to slog through 2 more years of high school, and also mentioned that she hadn't really gotten into too much trouble yet. "Oh, really?" I replied. "Yeah," Kat said, "but I was thinking of sneaking into the pool to go swimming tonight, if you'd care to join." I couldn't quite believe what I was reading. Like I said, we had sort of playfully flirted before, but she'd never invited me anywhere, especially not to go swimming. I told her I was at a party with my friends, and she offered to come pick me up. My heart was racing. I told her where I was, and she said she'd be there in 20 minutes. I said goodbye to my friends and waited outside for Kat. A few minutes later, she pulled up, and I hopped in. She was driving her parents' minivan. "So," I said, "you want to sneak into Oakcrest Pool?" "That's the plan," she said. "You're not scared, are you?" You see, there was this urban legend in our town. No one knew exactly how it started, but everyone had heard the story. Oakcrest Pool, a public pool not too far from where I lived, was supposedly haunted. A few years ago, a young babysitter had been there one afternoon, watching a child. The kid, a young boy who was maybe 3 or 4, was playing in the shallow end of the pool with some other kids. The babysitter had been watching him, but her boyfriend showed up in the afternoon, and the two snuck off together for some canoodling nearby. Well, while the babysitter and her boyfriend were otherwise occupied, the kid she had been watching ventured into the deep end of the pool. The lifeguard on duty saw the child struggling in the deeper water, but by the time he managed to jump in and grab him, the child was already dead. The babysitter, still with her boyfriend behind the pool, heard the commotion and ran back to find her worst fears realized. The kid she was supposed to be watching had drowned because of her irresponsibility. While the horrified crowd at the pool gathered around the lifeless child, she ran into the women's bathroom. Unable to foresee a future of living with the guilt and shame, she killed herself in one of the shower stalls. They found her body slumped in the corner with the words, "I'm sorry," written in blood on the tiles. Legend said that if you went to the pool late at night, you could hear crying coming from the women's showers. The restless spirit of the guilt-ridden babysitter, still tortured, even in death. Or rather, that was the story anyway. Again, this was just local folklore. I'm not sure if any of us in the town had actually seen any record of an accidental drowning or suicide at the pool. The story had always creeped me out, though, and as much as I liked hanging out with Kat, the prospect of sneaking into Oakcrest Pool and testing the legend did make me nervous. "You're not scared, are you?" she asked again. Of course not," I stuttered. "Does anybody actually believe that crap?" I did my best to seem dismissive of the legend. I was hanging out with a senior girl, after all. I had to prove myself. "Good," she replied. We chatted and joked around the rest of the drive, and in just a few short minutes, we were at the pool. Oakcrest Pool was on top of this small hill, and after parking in the lot, you had to cross this little concrete bridge over a creek before walking up a set of stairs. Kat, however, pulled around to the back of the pool on the other side of the hill. "There's a little gap in the fence over here. You can lift from the bottom and crawl right in," she said. We walked over to the fence, and sure enough, there was a spot at the bottom we could both slip right under. We checked that the coast was clear and then headed past the bathrooms into the main pool area. The pool was actually two pools, one smaller one that was mostly just for doing laps, and a larger one with a shallow end and a deep end with a diving board. I had never been there before at night, with all the lights off. The water of the pool looked almost black. I couldn't even see the bottom. I was used to coming here during the day with plenty of people splashing around and talking, but that night the only sound was the gentle ripple of the surface and the chorus of insects singing in the hot spring air. It was decidedly eerie. To be honest, though, I was more focused on Kat. She went over to the diving board, took off her jeans, and jumped straight into a cannonball. "Come on in. The water's fine," she called after surfacing. I took off my t-shirt and cannonballed in after her. We swam around a bit, talked about people at our school, and eventually had a pretty good heart-to-heart chat about life. It felt good to be real with her, putting all the jokes and playful stuff aside. It felt like we were really, actually, friends. I'd love to look back on this evening and say that's all there was to it. Up until that point, it was really one of the best times I'd ever had. But then things took a strange turn. We each did a few more jumps off the diving board. At one point, Kat did a pencil dive right into the deep end. When she came up, she was laughing, but then she started to feel around her wrist. "Oh crap," she said. "I think my bracelet came off." I looked down into the water of the pool. Again, with all the lights out, it was almost black. My vision didn't stand a chance against the rippling darkness of the water, but desperate to be the hero, I decided to dive down and feel around. My pruned fingers poked around the concrete texture of the bottom. I remember seeing her bracelet earlier on her wrist. It was sort of a thick silver chain with a heart on it. Ah! There it was. My hand felt a cold metal chain on the bottom near the plastic drain. Gotcha. I grabbed the bracelet and placed my feet on the bottom, ready to spring back up to the surface, when I heard a sound. It sounded like someone screaming underwater. That muffled sort of submerged scream where you can hear the bubbles escaping the person's lungs. "Kat!" I pushed as hard as I could off the bottom and burst through the surface. "Kat!" I gasped. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I wiped the water from my eyes. Kat was treading water next to me, looking at me like I was crazy. I'm fine," she said. "Oh, I thought I heard you..." She continued to stare at me. Never mind. I found your bracelet." "My hero," she proclaimed, giving me a tight hug. "Thank you so much." I told her not to mention it, and we swam out of the deep end. Perhaps I'd just been hearing things. Either way, I couldn't express my fear. I didn't want Kat to think I was afraid, even though I was. It was starting to get late, so Kat actually suggested that we go. We climbed out of the pool and walked back over past the bathrooms, towards the hole in the fence. As we passed by the bathrooms, though, something caught my eye. A light was on in the women's bathroom. There was this heavily frosted glass next to the door, a small window that was cracked open, and I could see a light inside. Was that light on before? I asked Kat. She stopped and glanced back at the bathroom, noticing it as well. Maybe? I don't remember. She brushed it off and continued towards the fence. My question had been rhetorical. I remember being struck by how different the pool looked, as it was completely dark when we'd entered earlier. The hairs on my neck stood on end. Kat seemed unaffected, though, and started to lift the bottom of the fence. The hole was only big enough for one of us to go at a time, and so I waited for my turn as she crawled through. I looked back towards the bathroom, and I heard something? A voice? Damn, Kat grunted, startling me. What's wrong? I asked. Oh, just my jeans are caught on the fence. Give me a second. She struggled to pull one of the chain links from her already tattered jeans, and I turned back to the bathroom. I was certain now. I was hearing something. A low, sobbing voice, echoing in the women's bathroom, like someone trying to hold back tears, but failing. Do you hear that? I asked Kat, but she was struggling beneath the fence. Hear what? She asked. I bent down in an attempt to free her faster, wanting to get the hell out of there as soon as I could, but I could barely reach through the fence to where her pants were caught. I looked back towards the bathroom and swore I saw movement behind the frosted glass. Got it. Kat freed her jeans from the fence and scooted out into the parking lot, and I quickly scrambled behind her. When you were a kid, did you ever fly up the stairs after turning off the basement lights? It was kind of like that. Sheesh, Kat said. What's gotten into you? Nothing, I replied. The ride back from the pool was a little awkward. I tried to play it off, but Kat could clearly tell that something had spooked me. We managed a couple of dumb jokes, though, and she dropped me off at my house before driving away into the night. What a night. I collapsed onto my bed. Kat and I remained friends. I still occasionally text her to this day. But in the end, I learned my lesson. If you dare test your local urban legend, don't be surprised if it tests you back. Quite a terrifying encounter, wouldn't you say, fellow ghouls? Good thing he didn't mention his fears to Kat, though. She might have thought he'd gone off the deep end. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for stopping by, and good night.